The next big thing is that companies start to look outside of their boundaries. They really want to understand what impact do their externalities have on society and on the environment in order to make the correct strategic decisions in the long term. And that is called impact valuation and measurement broadly. And what we see that companies start to do here is that they really understand what are the inputs that they need as a company, the resources that they source, what is the output that they have in terms of taxes that they generate, but also, of course, emissions and waste streams, and then look at the next step, what is the outcome? How do they impact the environment? How do they impact society with their actions? It's pertaining to company value and most certainly to risk as well. So we have supply chain management in our questionnaire for many years. And over the years we had discussions with companies how to approach that the best way. We saw that companies clearly evolved from understanding the risks in their first tier suppliers to go beyond that. And one example I can give you here why that is important is with the Fukushima catastrophe in Japan. Car makers had a very good handle on their first tier suppliers, but they didn't know that all their first tier suppliers relied on one second tier supplier that was sitting in the Fukushima area and couldn't deliver. And they weren't aware of that risk, they didn't handle that in advance, and it caused big disruptions in their production facilities. So this step really to go beyond your first level of supply chain to the second one is very, very important. Also in terms of reputational risk. Nowadays, the world is so connected that if something happens in a factory in Bangladesh and you're remotely connected to that, 10 minutes later the whole world knows and your reputation is on the line. So what we expect from companies is to have a very good understanding of their supply chain and be able to report how they monitor risk, how they work with their suppliers, how they implement corrective action plans, etc. Human capital development is one of the key topics that affects really all industries. It is very important for companies to bring their staff, their people along their strategic decisions. They cannot only rely on hiring new talent, but they need to develop their own people, bring them on with new skills, maybe around digitization or new skills to develop services and products in new markets. Therefore, what we look at is to see that companies are able to measure their return on the human capital investments in a consistent way, so that HR has a seat at the board table when those strategic decisions are taken and knows what money they need to request in terms of investment in human capital to bring their staff along that strategy. With human rights, we have become a lot more stricter in the questionnaire over recent years with regards to the commitment that we want to see from companies. There has to be a strong language on commitment to the guiding principles on human rights. We want this to extend not just to the company itself, but to their business partners and their supply chain. And we want to see clear and public disclosure on what actions they have taken, how they monitor the risks, how they periodically review them, and if they identify any issues, how they intend to close them.